of democratic efficiency, fiscal prudence, and institutional reforms, that is, one nation, one election. From the very nomenclature, that is, one nation, one election, it is clear that the core idea behind this vision is to hold simultaneous elections of Lok Sabha and state assemblies along with the local bodies. And as rightly mentioned by our chief guest, that this is not a new concept for our nation. If we look at our nation's history, the first election that was held in independent India in 1951, from 1951 to 1967, India was following the system of simultaneous elections. But it was actually 1968 and 1969 in which, due to some premature dissolution of few state assemblies and subsequently 1970, the premature dissolution of the fourth Lok Sabha, that this synchronization was disrupted. So the question before us today is not whether simultaneous elections are possible or not. They are very much possible. The question is whether they are desirable and sustainable in our current legal and administrative landscape. Believing that the answer is a resounding yes, provided that we pursue it with political will, legal clarity, and administrative readiness. To understand one nation, one election, we must first look at the governance perspective. We are holding multiple elections, and as already quoted by my friend, that with multiple elections you will have model code of conduct, which is going to freeze the decision making. But not only model code of conduct, also whenever you have an election in a state or it's a central election, the focus of the government shifts from governance to campaigning. So this focus, this shift of government from governance to campaigning, this affects developmental project, especially at the grassroots level. If we are able to have a synchronized electoral calendar, which is being proposed in one nation, one election, we can minimize these disruptions, allowing governments to focus more on governance rather than campaigning. Secondly, the economic argument is very compelling, which was mentioned by our honorable guest. India spends thousands of crores on election. According to a parliamentary panel, the Election Commission of India spends more than rupees 4,500 crores to conduct elections of Lok Sabha and state assemblies. This 4,500 is excluding the expenditure incurred by political parties and candidates. So if we are able to save this much money, if we are able to consolidate all this process into one election, we are not only saving cost here, we are also lowering the burden on administration and on security forces, which has to be called up, which has to be reutilized every time a new election is called. More than this, in a high-level committee, which was headed and led by our former president, Mr. Ramnath Kovind, the report had submitted that India's national real GDP growth with simultaneous elections would be 1.5 percent points higher in the immediate next year compared to the previous year. To put this into perspective, 1.5% of GDP is equivalent to 4.5 lakh crore according to financial year 2024. This is almost half of the public spending on healthcare and 1/3 on education. So with one nation, one election, we are not only saving money that the government can invest in other critical sectors of economy that like healthcare or education. This is also stimulating economic growth, creating a stable business environment. You can imagine relentless political rhetoric, repeated mobilization of public resources, and a constant administrative alertness creates an environment of instability and unrest. With one elections, we can lead a more peaceful and a constructive political discourse. More than this, people can be given an opportunity to interact with the government outside this din of elections. People in India interact with the government more in the election and less on the governance. If the government is given an opportunity and more time to focus on governance, people can articulate their expression and their right to vote in a better manner, because now they are dealing with the governments more on governance and less on the election day. To conclude, I would say that one nation, one election is not merely a procedural reform. It is a profound constitutional reimagination. Yes, it calls for bold steps. Yes, it calls for deep deliberation. and bipartisan majority. Because if this is done right, this has the potential to redefine governance in India, making it more focused, stable, and people centric. So let us not ask whether it is convenient. Let us ask whether it strengthens our democracy. And if you ask me, I believe that yes, it strengthens our democracy. So let us come together and begin the political and institutional consensus required to make this into a reality and make our nation great. Thank you.